Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 accessories for whitetail hunting. Starting off with a pretty common one here, these are hot hands and hand warmers, which are pretty common. These actually are ones, the reason I'm including these are, yeah, of course they're camo, makes it better, but these you can actually boil and they will reheat and heat up again. And they stay hot for like 8 hours, which is pretty incredible. So really pleased with these. I've used them for over a year now, and I even used them last year when I went hunting in a like -15 or something crazy, and then I went camping in it. So these work really well. Then of course you've got your normal Hot Hands brand. These are your common hand warmers, and these are actually getting better and better. As you can see, they got 10 hours of heat, so plenty long enough to last you through a good sit. And these are actually something that I discovered last year, these toe warmers, and I've experimented with putting them on my boot and also putting them on my sock, and I've personally had better luck with putting them on my boot because if I put them on my sock, my toes will get sweaty and you never want to be wet walking into the stand. So accessory number 1 has got to be hand warmers, because specifically if you're an archery hunter, you got to have your hands ready. And even with crossbow and gun hunting, you got to be ready to pull that trigger. And so sometimes you can't afford to wear those big, thick, heavy gloves, but hot hands and hand warmers will definitely still keep you warm. Next up's got to be a Grunt Tube. I know this is a very hotly contested argument about, if you should use Grunt Tubes, if they work, but I absolutely love them. Specifically this extinguisher one, because as you can tell, it has a fawn call, a doe call, and a buck grunt. So I'll demonstrate how I like to use it. Personally, if I want to be less aggressive, I will start out with a fawn call. As you can tell, it sounds something like this. And then usually I'll mix in a doe call with it to make it sound like they're responding to one another. And then especially this time of year, these 2 weeks, about the 1st of November to the 14th of November, I really like to bust out this guy. Buck grunt, if you see a buck like just out of range and he's walking away and you need something to draw him in, works great. If you're having no luck, you can draw him in that way by grunting, even blind grunting sometimes, and he'll come running towards it, especially this time of year in the rut. Second accessory got to be the Grunt Tube. Next accessory are these antlers, and now these antlers aren't just any antlers. Well, they are antlers off of a real deer that just cut off the skull there. I use them as rattling antlers. Again, very hotly contested argument online. Does it work? Should I do it? But I always use it in conjunction with the Grunt Tube, and I actually just harvested my 10-point buck. You can see a picture there, while rattling. And so what I really like to do with these is something like this. I like to maybe grunt once or twice, and then, I don't always just crash them together hard, because honestly, I've done a little bit of research and looking at the way that deer fight, they're not always just crashing. A lot of the time they'll just lock, and then they'll kind of slide off. So it's not constant crashing, but it's more of like a loud one, and then they slide off, and then another crash, and they'll slide off. And then sometimes, like I said, it's all up to you how aggressive you want to be. If you want to be slightly less aggressive, then sometimes you just got to tickle them together like that, which isn't quite as aggressive of a fight. But, last Tuesday, when I actually harvested my buck, like I showed you a picture, I actually just crashed them, then slid them off, then crashed them, then slid him off. And it worked great. He came in, followed a couple does that went right by. So I personally love rattling. I know a lot of people that haven't had a lot of luck with it, but for me, my third accessory has to be rattling antlers. Fourth on my list is actually this Code Red doe urine. And I love, just getting a couple drops and spreading it out around my stand, because deer, they just like knowing the presence of other deer there. They're curious creatures, so they'll come in to smell it. And this time of year, I'll especially use doe urine with estrus, which I find really draws them in. But while I don't have much to say, it works for me. Some people, swear by it. Some people hate it, but I love doing this. Sometimes I'll put it on a rag and hang it on a tree limb by a scrape, and they'll come over and smell it. But doe urine is something that I never go without, especially this time of year if I could add estrus with it. Fourth accessory has to be doe urine. Last but not least has to be nose jammer. I use it on almost every single hunt. Again, some people swear by it, some people hate it, but I love it. As it says, I love spraying it on my boots and on my clothes, and then I just find that deer don't win me quite so much when I'm using this can of nose jammer, and I absolutely love it. I honestly swear by it. I literally do not go a single hunt without using it. I absolutely love it. My final My last, but certainly not least accessory for whitetail hunting has to be nose jammer. I love this stuff.